Welcome to Inside Texas Football, powered by InsideTexas.com. This is Drew Kelson here today with Ian Boyd of InsideTexas.com. Ian, how you doing?
Doing good. Hey, Drew, the helmet behind you, is that your actual playing helmet or do you have to get like another one?
Nope. Let's see. I actually have it covering the speaker. It is my playing helmet. What year was this? Big 12 championship. Hold on. Which year was this?
Five.
Yeah, 05. Well, yep, BCS. Yeah, so this is my playing helmet.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Well,
I have my Rose Bowl jersey in this closet over here, but yeah. That's it. I have my ring in the other room somewhere. I have it covering a speaker. I can't move. But yeah, that's actually the helmet I played in the Rose Bowl. I don't think I really realized which one that was. But yeah,
wow.
dude.
Championships.
Really cool, man, matchup that we have coming up with Washington this week. It's kind of exciting for us because we do have some familiarity after last season's bowl game, but also we've spent how many days now waiting for this game to start. So I know we have some initial first impressions, and I know today we'll be talking about Washington's offense and how they match up against the Texas defense. Just what are your high-level impressions so far before we really break it down?
Just before the show when we were talking through the different points we want to get on, I was just reminded it's kind of how scary this team is. The week before the game, the playoff field was set, I was like, man, I wouldn't want Texas to play this team. Like every team in the field has got their own challenges, but there's just nothing quite like facing a team with like a veteran quarterback that knows all the tricks, throwing the ball up for grabs to NFL receivers. There's only so many things you can do about it. And like you can, and it's the kind of team you can like bottle them up for 2 quarters, a quarter, 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden they hit something, they get going, your pass rushers get tired, and all of a sudden the quarterback's got your game plan figured out. Maybe your top corner's running in molasses. There's no pressure. He knows exactly what to do, and things just unravel. I feel a lot better watching their defense, but
you have the same impressions I have. That's one thing that it's tough to do as a fan is first see the reality of what you're facing. We're always looking for edges, but when I was looking back at this, it was just first things first. I mean, this team, it's the same core guys who were here last year. I mean, we played against Penix, we played against McMillan, we played against these same guys back in the bowl game last year. So to a certain extent, I appreciate the fact that they have experience and they have talent and they have chemistry. They've all worked together, but they've also, in addition to that, they've had 30 plus days to prepare. The best part about that for us is that we've also had 30 plus days to prepare. But kind of to echo what you just said, make no mistake, Michael Penix is a dog. And I don't mean that from a talent and execution standpoint. I appreciate his mentality. I've seen him be calm when things are out of whack and when there's a storm around him. I've seen him not care. That's huge for me. There's some VY when it comes to how confident and calm a player can be in key moments when everyone else watching is just worried. I mean, Michael Penix is that dude. But addition to that, when I compare to VY, there's enough reps, there's enough passes, there's enough plays. We've seen him play enough football to where we just expect him to perform. And so I expect him to perform to a certain extent, for sure, against our defense. And he has some dogs around him. Odunze is a 6'3" guy out of Vegas. You have Jalen McMillan, who out of Fresno, California. We know guys out of Fresno. He's a baller. Made some key plays against us last year. then Jalen Polk is from Lufkin. So there's some. I mean, another big body receiver. We have to play some of these guys. It's going to be a matchup. And I'm sorry, I don't want to lose this part, but Dylan Johnson, their running back, is key to what they do. The way that they do it, I don't think is going to be as much of a stress to us, but he's a hard running back. We're going to have to respect it. They have talent, they have dogs, they have players, they have an experienced line, except for one little spike place. But kind of speaking of players, I know you wrote an article at InsideTexas.com.
Before we get into that, let me ask you something real quick.
What's up?
With VY, how much of a difference did it make in the fourth quarter against USC that he'd already had to make good in Columbus earlier in the year, you think?
The only reason why I don't think it makes a difference is because whether we were playing in Columbus, whether we were playing in Columbia, Missouri, VY was the same VY. The stage never really mattered, and our confidence never wavered. So the setting itself, and I think from a fan perspective, you're like, man, they're on the road against Ohio State. They're on the road against Bama. They're playing against these guys. You have no doubt in your mind that you have the scheme and the players and the talent to beat that team. So the stage itself shrinks. The crowd, I don't notice the crowd. You don't notice anything that's going on outside of the 22 guys on the field in most games. And so VY was just one of those guys. He transcended the stage in and of itself. It was never too much for him. So, but yeah, I know we'll see how we are this week because neither team has been on this stage. And I know they have some really great players. And I know you wrote an article on InsideTexas.com about Odunze.
Yeah.
Rome Odunze, great player. It seems like it's been a favorite target for Penix all this season. What were your general thoughts and breakdown on how you think how he can be stopped, and how do you think what Texas already has built into the defense to stop him or to slow someone like him down?
I think he's a guy that you need to bracket a lot. Not necessarily every play, but frequently, and especially from alignments where that he's like the guy they want to go to. Even though it can cost you somewhere else, we'll get into that. The guy was just unbelievably consistent this year. Like, he didn't have a lot of games. Like sometimes, like, a guy of his caliber he'll have a game where it's like 15 catches for 200 yards or something wild, right? And then another game where maybe he doesn't do as much. It wasn't really like that with the Odunze. It's like every single game, 5 to 10 catches, 80 to 120 yards, usually north of 100, a touchdown, 2 touchdowns. Just a go-to guy, and in a lot of different ways. They'd hit him on their, they'd throw fades to him. He'd just go up and get the ball in the air. He's really hard to stop from doing that. They'd hit him on deep crossers. They'd get him the ball on screens and slants underneath. There wasn't like, he's like a deep threat receiver, but he's not a guy where it's like he's either going to take the top off or he's not.
Right.
And they will get him the ball different ways to let him impact a game. And last year, Texas really, really held him down well. It was like 5 catches for 40 yards, something very non-lethal. And it made a big difference in that game. And that's why Texas had a chance last year. I think you got to try to mimic that to the extent you can, and you can't let him kill you. As far as how, I like bracket. I like having a safety on his inside that's primarily concerned with, like, this guy's not going to get it's not going to get by me on a deep crosser. He's not going to get behind me on a post. I'm going to stay in his front pocket with corner. Texas has played that coverage. They played that coverage on him last year. They've played that coverage some in other games, and that'd be my preference. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, he is the player that they go to. He has been the player that they go to. I think what concerns me is that I really think Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk are also really good receivers. That they're fine pivoting to if you bracket Odunze. Um, I'm not saying we shouldn't bracket Odunze. I just think exclusively doing so, I don't think it'll deter them. He's been bracketed all season. It doesn't stop them from going to him and getting him in matchups where he's catching a catch over his outside shoulder. So a bracket player isn't really helping at all. They'll throw it to him regardless, even on the outside shoulder, outside the hashes. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really make a difference to bracket him because they've seen bracketed coverage before. They know how to play against it. They know how to pivot away from it. The one thing I do like about bracket coverage, if it can serve us well, is if they do see bracket coverage, it shortens the list of options he may have in his route tree. So, whereas without showing bracket coverage, he has deep crossers, he has posts, he has corners, he has streaks, he has options to do everything. When there is bracket coverage on, or the illusion of bracket coverage, anything that helps them discourage the posts, those long, deep, dragging routes, but allows the corner to anticipate, I know we're showing bracket, so I can play this in a way where I have the sideline as protection, play for the fade, play for the under routes, stay on top. It allows you to kind of shrink the number of options that he has to run and allows your corner to probably be more aggressive on alternative routes that aren't a post or that aren't just some of the routes that can that you can take advantage of. So, I think that's the key thing. It's you want to bracket, but you want to take advantage of it in a way where you're ready to both defend those other guys on the other side, but you're also being able to play tighter coverage by your corner because he has help.
So one of the scary things when you do that is when they play three receivers on the other side, and then they have Odunze on the solo side.
Yeah, you got to make a
But the
choice.
opposite, I think we talked about one in particular that Homer was asking you about, where it's like they got like a tight end flexed opposite Odunze. They got Polk out there, and then they put McMillan inside at like number 3, where he's matched up against like a linebacker, and
Hmm.
then maybe a safety over the top, and then they have him run deep with the other 2 guys staying shallow, and then he'll read the deep safety's leverage and run like what, a post or a corner based on where the safety is.
That's probably what concerns me the most. We try to do this with our offense. I expect them to do the same. Is get your talented wide receivers matched up in coverage, in space, on safeties. Doesn't matter who the safety is at any team. You always want to get your talented wide receivers matched up on safeties in space. So if you have a guy that's lined up on the inside, whether it be the slot or he's lined up as a number 3 receiver, if he's inside the hashes or on the hashes, he can go anywhere he wants on the field. As a corner, as a safety playing those types of routes, if a receiver is going to have an option for a post or a corner in these sets, I guess what I lean towards is defending the post because the post can go to the house. Whether he runs a skinny or he flattens it out, if you're dragging across the field and you have a chance to pull away from a safety, it's unless you have help on the backside, a corner that's playing off or playing in cover 3 in some way, you want to discourage the post in those dragging routes, or at least be in position to play those well, to have good coverage on them. If I had to concede anything, it would be the corner. Why? It's so you protect the post and hope that you anticipate the corner route, because usually the corner route requires great timing. It requires a great throw, and usually you have the sideline as help. And if you disrupt timing, that sideline throw to the corner may be a second late. It may be maybe out of bounds, but at the end of the day, you usually can live to fight another day. A corner route usually doesn't and isn't supposed to beat you to go to the end zone. So, but you definitely want to discourage those post routes. So now the one thing off of that concerns, or that can concern, is if they just opt to not run a corner or a post off of this route. he's streaking down the field. McMillan's streaking down the field, and the safety, he's thinking, okay, one or the other, and he just gives him a head nod in, head nod out, doesn't matter which way, and he just continues to go up the field straight. Because anytime you can get a safety flat on his feet, guessing, stagnant, I mean, most receivers can beat him, but these receivers can definitely beat him. So that'll be one of the matchups that I'm looking for. But also, when you have this much time to prepare for a game, our guys should know exactly how they intend to attack in those formations. You should spot McMillan and kind of know what they're setting up. You know, I've had plays where, I mean, hey, in the Rose Bowl, this play right here, people are like, "Hey, you did such a great job. You know, you ran with Reggie Bush and all this other stuff." I also knew what Reggie was running. He motioned across to the boundary side. He knew it was going to be matched up on a weak side linebacker. Why wouldn't you take that matchup? Me merely knowing that was coming put me in position to be in position to make that play. I'm hoping that after time or over the time of this bowl prep, they know all of the compromising positions that this offense will try to put them in. They anticipate that this is one of the places that they're going to get stressed, and hopefully they'll be prepared for it. And maybe they'll actually get a pick because they're prepared, as opposed to dropping one. But
there was a not to be on too much of a tangent here, but when Texas played Baylor with RG3 in 2011, Baylor had this play that they ran like first or second play of every single freaking game, where they'd like RG would fake a power read, like it's either a sweep or he'd keep it on power. He'd like step forward like he was going to run quarterback power, and then he'd drop back, and they'd have Kendall Wright running a kind of a route like we're talking about up the middle.
Yeah.
And then just bombs away to Kendall Wright.
Yeah.
And apparently Manny Diaz in the Texas defense all week was like, okay, whatever we do, we're going to stop this play when they run it on like the first or second play of the game. This is what they do. This is what it looks like. We're going to stop it. So they're lined up. RG3 does it. They have pressure. He drifts back a little extra, and then just chucks it. And then with all that extra time, Kendall Wright runs by a safety, touchdown, Baylor. Heisman highlights. Sometimes guys they'll just do it anyway, even when you know it's coming.
You can't. It's tough to beat a guy who RG3 is kind of reminding me of what Lamar Jackson's doing right now. Yes, an athlete, yes, can run for yards, but when you can run or use your athleticism to just get away from defensive linemen long enough to for your receivers to get open, that's scary. And really, that's what Michael Penix does well. He's not going to beat you running, but sometimes he just buys enough time just to give his receiver enough time to drag across the field, and he just launches it. And you're like, where is he throwing it?
Yep.
It's like he knew his guy was going to be there. He's throwing to spots, and just if he runs out of time in the pocket to do so, he'll just leave the pocket. His guys are still going to the same spots. He just buys enough time to get the ball out to those spots. So that is one thing I expect this week that we're going to have to contain is him using his legs in the pocket to just buy time to throw downfield.
He did that. I gift up a play this week that I used in an article where Penix got out of the pocket, just kind of drifted to the sideline, and then just launched this bomb. And Cook probably got away with DPI, breaking it up, where they have the initial concept covered up. They even got pressure, which was not very common in that game. And then he just gets out, throws down the field to a spot to where he knows his guy's going to be running to, and they were just, So there is one way to sort of short circuit a lot of that. Now there are some risks here, but interior pressure is generally how you shut down a quarterback. Like the best way to shut down a quarterback is interior pressure. Penix has tricks for overcoming that. We'll talk about, but Texas, they could bracket Odunze. They could play off zone to the other side of the field to where like the corner can help if the McMillan runs outside, the corner can kind of drift off and help on that, see if he can pick that off. They can just kind of try to play soft and make him earn it down the field. But they can also just get in his face and
Yeah.
force completions. Um, the thing that a lot of us have latched onto into this game is the fact that Texas has got the Outland Trophy winner, Devondre Sweat. They have a nose tackle in Byron Murphy who had 5 sacks this year and was up in people's business all year. And Washington has a center who's listed at 6'1", 275, and is a redshirt freshman. And I think just everybody sees that, and like $ eyes, right?
I'll say this. I'll say this. There is the one thing that I knew would travel for us because it's traveled every game this season is that interior D line. Um, there's no situation where a 6'1",
6'1" or
two
6'2".
6'2", 270 redshirt freshman or freshman. I mean, I'm not saying he's a talented. I'm not saying he isn't skilled. I'm not saying he doesn't have great feet. Actually, he is a solid center. He's just undersized.
Yeah.
No one with that build has slowed down or stopped our guys. And so one thing that I know will travel and feel confident with is if you have Byron Murphy over the nose and continue to have Sweat as a 3-tech, that's just a long game. And so that's kind of what I appreciate about what our guys do bring is that, yes, is every play are we going to be disrupting and be in the backfield and dominate this kid? No, that's not how the game works. Just there are certain plays where our interior D line won't matter. But when it comes to when they can make plays, we're going to win on the interior D line. We are. We're going to get some wins. How effective can we get them? Can we get Penix off his spots? Can we disrupt timing? Can we contain with our edges? And so containing with the edges, just in general, when you've seen the type of pressure we've generated up the middle this year, how have you felt about, have we been able to contain pressure? Have we been able to, do you think we have the scheme? Have we shown that we're able to not just generate pressure up the middle, but also contain for something that Penix likes to do as far as buying time to get out of the pocket?
I think my impression, without having done like an intense study on this, has been that when Texas wants to like force a quarterback one way, they can be pretty good at that.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to playing like disciplined on the edges and not getting too far upfield and keeping the quarterback in front of them, that was an issue in a lot of games this year, and it hasn't really. It's not been a factor in a while, right? So it's hard to know where they're at with it. Like, we anticipated that would be a deal with Donovan Smith, and it wasn't. But that's because they kept giving up the easiest crossers and slants, and so he just spit the ball out real quick.
I'm glad we got that figured out.
Dylan Gabriel gave Texas fits, scrambling up. Jalen Milroe was kind of a mixed bag. He's also sort of a different animal.
Mm-hmm.
You would like to think that with a month to prepare, because we talked about this pre-show, like Penix, he's so good at, you do get inside pressure, great, okay. He drifts to one sideline or the other, and then they're just awesome at like deep scramble drill.
Mm-hmm.
As receivers. So he's just throwing the ball down the field to a spot, and then his guys are going to go up and get it because they're all big, awesome ball winners. So you absolutely have to. It seems like Texas could scheme a dozen ways to get him inside with, like, Murphy over the center, maybe put Sweat over the center, slant Sweat inside, or just let Sweat work against these guards. Blitz Jalen Ford or Anthony Hill inside, run him up the A gap.
Mm-hmm.
There seems like there's a lot of ways they could get at to flush him, but then it still comes down to those edges uh, being in position to maximize and keep Penix from being able to just reset somewhere off center to get the ball off anyway. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's got to be
I've
their focus, right?
well, and I'm big on how many wasted plays, how many dead plays, dead ball plays can we create? How many plays can we create where there's an incomplete pass, they're not getting any yards, not even negative yards, but just they're not getting any yards. And so I think the benefit of having this many days to prepare is that your players should be in position to make all the plays that they need to make. If Washington can complete passes, be under pressure, or make those throws, make all of those catches, and our players are in position to make the plays and just aren't making them, hats off to them. But one of the things nobody's really talking about much, and I know they leaned on a little bit later in the season, so it seems, is their run game. Is Dylan Johnson. Everyone talks about Penix. Everyone talks about what he brings to the table. But Dylan Johnson, I mean, he's averaging 5.5 yards a game per carry. He's getting, I mean, even in some of the big games, he's getting over 20 carries. But, he's averaging 15, 16 plus carries per game, and he's doing well with it. I know they typically like to get him in space and on edges, which I'm not as concerned about. But do you anticipate, would you expect them? I mean, this is a confident team. This is a confident team. You've studied. I expect them to do what they do and do what they've done. I don't expect them to come out and do something or throw in new wrinkles. How much Dylan Johnson impact do you anticipate coming into this? Because he's a talented back. It's just a matter of, can they get him in position to win one-on-ones in space with our guys and get them covered up?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think they need to run the ball some to keep Texas
Yeah.
on. But even if they're getting a light box, if I'm them, I would much rather scheme up a lot of quick game than try to run him more than like 10 to 12 times. Because I can't imagine that that's going to go very well for them, you know?
So I'm with you in the way that they use the run game. I can't imagine that either. I know they have the screen game that they lean on,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, if there's one weakness in their screen game, it's usually schemed up well, and they have athletic offensive linemen who can get out there and get blocks. But I don't think their receivers are the best blockers in those games. So I feel good about us being able to play that. But also because we run a ton of screen in so many different variations and ways. And the way to beat screen is getting off blocks and rallying to the ball regardless of who's running it. And I think our guys have at least done a good enough job to do that. So,
You know who's good at it? Anthony Hill. Because, I mean, when he just gets into like see ball, hit ball mode,
yeah,
he's fast, he's relentless, and he's always just so violent.
he's rarely stuck on blocks either. Linemen
Yeah.
can rarely get their hands on him. He may not take the right angle, but or the right leverage in certain ways, but he's going to work his way around and through. And sometimes it's just because he can read and respond so fast. He just takes the path of least resistance, and they may not be the right path. But I think in the screen game, he's the exact kind of guy you want because he can cover a lot of ground.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jade Barron, too, is a really high IQ player, maybe the highest IQ player on the defense. And he's also really good at sniffing out that kind of thing. That's actually, I feel like if there's one spot where Washington is just really dangerous in general that we haven't quite talked about, it's just them as a high IQ team.
Mm-hmm.
Like their line are all fifth or sixth year guys. I think they're mostly all fifth year guys, except for the little center. Penix is a sixth year player. Their receivers are all upperclassmen. Dylan Johnson played for years in the SEC before he came. He's a really good blitz pickup guy.
Hmm.
And that's just a scary thing in a playoff game where each team, it's like, how much can you make of a month of prep? And how ready are you to make the winning plays at the right time? Just having a team that's very experienced and smart is kind of scary there.
Yeah.
But Texas has guys like that too. So it's not like that's something that I feel like has probably been underappreciated about Texas this year too, is that Sweat and Murphy have been a lot smarter this year. Jalen Ford is a high IQ player.
Hmm.
Ja'Day Barron is a high IQ player. Obviously, Jaron Thompson and Michael Taff are on it. That's part of the reason they play as much as they do. What do you
Hmm.
think about this whole, like, the who's going to make the smart decisions? Like, how do you think that can go in this game?
Um, I honestly, this is how I've felt about this, the makeup of this game, right? It's you have Washington, who has had the same coach and offense and players and talent. They've had guys move in and out of rotation, some guys with injuries this year. But at the end of the day, they're the same team structure as last year. Yes, stronger, faster, more talented, but I think we know what we're getting. So I can see, whereas I think our team, we're deeply into every nuance, right, of what has made this team work. And it hasn't been any single thing. It hasn't been, and more speaking from an offensive side of things, it hasn't been, just Quinn in every game. I mean, we've had 2 games without Quinn. We've had a strong running game with multiple backs. We've had stretches of this season where JT Sanders can't be stopped. We've had stretches where we haven't had to lean on him as much. We've had stretches where people have really tried to focus on shutting down Xavier Worthy, and Adonai Mitchell was just killing it. We've rolled out and had some games where Whittington is featured and we're getting him open. So when it comes to who can play the best mental game, I think we know going into this game, we have so many different options from an offensive standpoint, and we'll have so many different things schemed up. If something's not working, I feel confident we'll stay mentally dialed into pivoting it for away from it. Washington, while I expect them to come out and execute smoothly, regardless, if we are able to put them into a compromising position, I don't know what they pivot to.
Yeah,
What they do is what they do. And
yeah,
so I'm not telling you in any sense that we're going to shut them down and stop them and they're going to have less than 300 yards of offense. I'm not saying that in the least bit. What I am saying is if our offense is clicking and they are trying to figure some things out or find their edges or be patient driving the ball against us and scoring touchdowns instead of field goals, I'd like to see us put them in a position where they could get frustrated, could get impatient, and I'd like to put the pressure on them. And I think our offense has the ability to put some pressure on them. What I do find, though, is that everyone talks. What's interesting about their passing game, and I appreciate it, and hopefully, you said earlier this is a team that scared you the most. But while this team has scared me the most, this is also the team I'm happy we had, multiple weeks to prepare for.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Washington will.
Don't want to play them on the short week, on the week.
Right, you definitely don't want to play them on a short week. But
Yeah,
this is just one of those games and one of those matchups where I they don't do. I mean, yes, they have RPO in their system, but that's not what they're doing. They're not putting us in conflict in the ways that I think some of the Big 12 offenses, they thrive on putting you in conflict. They thrive on putting your ends in conflict, your linebackers in conflict. So we'll see. We'll see how all of that goes. Um, your general take. I'm not asking for a prediction here, but as we kind of we've talked through this, where are you leaning on just is Texas going to be on the plus side of this from a defensive standpoint, in the best case scenario, or do you think Washington just what that they're going to have their way, but we're going to outscore them? Where are you leaning on this as we go into this?
I think the way this goes is they do have they not to really contradict you, but they do have like one pivot point in this game,
Okay. I want to hear it.
which is just to speed up, just to go fast and see if you can wear out 362-pound sweat,
Yeah.
up the variance, up the number of possessions, and see if you can like pull it away in a shootout.
Yeah.
I think that that will eventually happen in this game,
Toward, yeah, as it builds.
where they will just get to a point where they're like, we the only way we're going to get in this game is to up the variance and start jacking threes, so to speak, right? And to up the tempo. Um, if they can stop Texas's early script and Texas has to come back in this game, then that won't happen.
Right.
Uh, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So and I think when they go up tempo, they will have success against the Texas defense. I think they will, by hook or by crook, they will get points on the board in this game. The problem is that if they do that, it just leaves their defense out to dry,
Yeah.
and Sark will know to sit on their defense and put points up. So I think it'll be a game where you could look back and be like, man, they really caught Texas's defense here, and they really caught Texas's defense here, but Texas made the plays to win the game. Kind of like the Houston game.
Yeah.
I think it could be kind of like that. After the
We always
Houston
feel like we're in control offensively, but we just go through some blunders on defense that make it a little closer.
or TCU too.
Well,
After,
and we're not comparing TCU and U of H to
that's the thing, right?
Washington, but the way the games unfolded.
When it happened against those teams, everyone was like, this is some BS.
Yeah.
Defense screwed up. After this game, you won't feel that way. You'll just focus on like, man, Jahdae Barron broke up the pass on 4th and 2, and
Yeah.
we got it.
Yeah.
Because I think the quality of the opponent will garner a lot more respect than against Houston or TCU.
Yeah. I'm with you there, and so yeah, you're right. The hurry up did. I mean, really against OU, I think the hurry up combined with a quarterback that runs, so they always have numbers. If you have a quarterback that's mobile and you're running hurry up, you can always find numbers, whether that be passing game, whether that be you're running the quarterback, you're looking at who's in the box and you're making decisions. At the end of the day, I do think this game for Washington comes down to players more than actual plays from an offensive perspective. And I feel confident with our defensive line. I don't want to put you to sleep here, Ian. I'm almost done. Now I'm messing with you.
Still fighting this cold, man.
I do feel our defense, with this many weeks to prepare, will be in position to defend and be in position to make the plays. Will they make them? Will the players on Washington's team just be as great as they've been all season? Make plays under pressure, while covered, while corners, while defenders are draped on them. We've seen them do it. So why not this week? But I do feel as though our players will be in position to make those plays. Two, unlike Oregon, who's been the litmus test that everyone leans on for, hey, Oregon is great, and they beat them twice. They played the same Oregon team twice and beat the Oregon team the same way 2 times. They were able to own the offense. They had control of the game from the start. We are a different squad than the last squad they saw in the bowl game last season. And so regardless of what they are seeing on film, and this is probably more from a player perspective, as a player, you're like, oh, this is Texas offense. You see them do things on film, and there's a combination of you're building confidence on how you're going to execute your scheme, but you're looking at personnel. It's like, well, this personnel didn't do this to us last year. How possibly could they do it this year? And I think the combination of our players developing and getting some key guys in the portal, we're just not the same squad. We're not executing the same way. And so if they're watching film, anticipating getting the same team that they saw last year, I think that does give us an edge. But I also think we're just a far better team on both sides. So I'm excited about this game. I don't have a prediction about this game, but I'm looking forward to it. And so just want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. It's powered by InsideTexas.com. Please go check us out on InsideTexas.com. Ian, this was fun. We have a few more days left. I'm sure every take that has been spoken is out there in the universe, and now we just got to wait on the guys to play. So looking forward to it, dude.
Yep. Stay out of OU bars.
Yeah, I made a big mistake. That was an accident, but I'm going to be back.